Hello learners and welcome back to Constant Learners. In today's video, we are going to discuss what are primary keys and very quickly we will also see what are alternate and composite keys. Let's say here we have a college database and the table that we're looking at is the students table. That means it has all the details about the student who has enrolled in that college. Alright, so we can have a lot of data about the students. We can have their phone numbers, their names, their date of birth, their address, the course that they have enrolled in. Then we can have their personal details also, right? Their identification numbers like passport numbers or license numbers. We could take their PAN card or Aadhaar card numbers. For those who don't know, PAN card and Aadhaar numbers are unique identification proofs of people living in India. So we can maybe the college can ask for their identification numbers also. Also, let's say when they enrolled into the college, at that time, the college may provide them with an enrollment number also, right? So all of this data about the student is going to be stored in this student table, correct? Now, let's say 500 students have enrolled for this session, all right? Now, of course, when 500 students have enrolled in this session, then this entire table will have 500 rows of data. Now, let's say I have to look for the data of a student whose name is Rajesh. All right. Now, I cannot go through every row of data to look for Rajesh. Correct. So, maybe I can write a query that fetch me the data of a student named Rajesh. Now, let's say there are 4 students whose names are Rajesh. Now, in that case, how will I know which student's data am I looking for? So, I mean to say that there are multiple columns in a table that can have repetitive or redundant data. Out of 500 students, there can be many students who might have same names or same date of birth. If they are living in a hostel, then they might even share the same address, correct? If they are siblings, then they might even share the same phone number. So there are many columns or attributes in a table that can have repetitive or redundant data. And whenever there is repetitive or redundant data, we say that those attributes are not unique. In the previous video of keys, we have discussed that keys are unique attributes because they help us to uniquely identify a row in the table, right? So since these are not unique, then they are not eligible to become the keys. All right. So these attributes that are having repetitive data cannot be keys. So now we are going to request the students to give us some kind of identification proofs. Let's say here we are asking for their passport number and license number, right? And enrollment number, the college is providing enrollment number. With every student that is enrolling in the course, he will get an enrollment number, right? Now passport number, license number, of course these are going to be unique because these are the identification proof of an individual. So it's not possible that 2 individuals can have the same passport number or same license number, right? That means passport number, license number is going to be unique. Also, enrollment number, with every student that is enrolling in the course, he is going to have a unique enrollment number. No 2 students will have the same enrollment number. That means all these 3 attributes are unique. When the attributes are unique, they are eligible to become the keys. And in this case, they are candidate keys. So here we have 3 candidate keys: passport number, license number, and enrollment number. All right. So now let's say I'm looking for Sonia, whose passport number I know, right? So it will be easy for me to look for her data. Of course it will be, because there's only going to be one Sonia who has that passport number. But let's say there is a student named Menka who does not have a passport at all. So of course she will not have a passport number also, right? That means in that case, the data for her passport number is going to stay empty. Or let's say there's a student named Shailesh who does not have a license. Then in that case, the license number is going to be empty for Shailesh. And whenever we have empty values, we say that we have null values. Null values means what? Empty values. Now, will it be possible for us to look for a student's data with null values? Of course not. When there's no value only, when the fields are empty, then how are we going to look for the student's data? So we need something, some attribute that is unique and not null. And such attributes are known as primary key. Alright, primary keys are unique and not null. So such fields are declared to be mandatory fields. That means when we are creating these attributes, when we are creating a table and we are creating the attributes, we declare a domain constraint of not null. That means this column or this attribute cannot stay null or empty. Alright. Now, enrollment number is unique. We know that enrollment number is unique. But the college is also providing each student an enrollment number. That means this column, enrollment number, will not stay empty for any student. Because at the time of formation of this column, we will make this field as a mandatory field. That means we are going to declare a domain constraint of not null for this attribute. Now, since this attribute is unique and not null, it is eligible to become the primary key. Candidate key is also unique, but candidate key can accept null values. This we have discussed in the previous video where we discussed the candidate keys, that candidate keys can accept null values, but primary key will always be unique and it will always be not null. Alright. Now, primary key is always selected from the candidate key. That means out of the many candidate keys that we get from the table, only one will be selected as the primary key. Also, only one candidate key is selected as the primary key. There can be only one primary key in one table. Alright. Then the preference is given to the candidate key that has minimum number of attributes. Now, what do we mean by that? See, here we have an example of candidate keys. So, here we are having 4 candidate keys. First is the SID, that is student ID. Then we have the Aadhaar number. Then we have a combination of 2 attributes. One is name and other one is phone number. And we have a combination of phone number and department, right? So this attribute is, this candidate key is made up of 1 attribute. This candidate key is made up of 1 attribute. This candidate key is made up of 2 attributes. And this candidate key is made up of 2 attributes. So the preference will be given to the candidate keys that has least number of attributes. And both of these candidate keys have least number of attributes. That means out of student ID and Aadhaar number, only one will be selected as the primary key. Now we've discussed just now that Aadhaar number can have null values, but primary key cannot accept null values. So we are only left with student ID. So student ID will be unique and it will not accept null values, and thus it will be selected as the primary key. Now let's say we have multiple attributes that are eligible to become the primary key. Let's say apart from student ID, we make Aadhaar number also a mandatory field. That means every student should provide their Aadhaar number. If it is a not null field, then in that case, Aadhaar number will also be eligible to become the primary key. Now, which number will be selected as a primary key? That will depend upon the database administrator. But again, database administrator will select the key which is easily accessible by everyone, right? But it is not very safe to share your Aadhaar number with anybody and everybody, right? We cannot make it easily accessible for everyone, right? So database administrator will think about all of these things. Like, is it okay? Is it normal to share your private identification proof with other people? No. Then in that case, they will select the student ID or enrollment number as the primary key. And also it should be ensured that the attribute that we are selecting as the primary key should be rarely changed. That means it should not change their values continuously. So that was all about primary key. Very quickly, let me explain you what are alternate and composite keys. Now, again, I have the list of candidate keys here. Student ID, Aadhaar number. Then we have a combination of 2 attributes, name and phone number. This is also a candidate key. And phone number and department. This is also a candidate key. Now, we've selected student ID as our primary key. Now, after selecting one primary key, whichever candidate keys are left behind are known as alternate keys. So student ID has been selected as the primary key. So Aadhaar number, then name, phone number and phone number department. These 3 keys will be the alternate keys. Alright. What are composite keys? When a candidate key is made up of 2 or more attributes. Like here we have 2 attributes, name and phone number. Here we have 2 attributes, phone number and department. So these 2 candidate keys are made up of 2 attributes. So whenever a candidate key is made up of 2 or more attributes, then we call them composite keys. Alternate keys are also known as secondary keys, and composite keys are also known as compound keys. I hope that primary key, alternate key and composite key was clear. If you have any doubts, you can write them in the comment section. And please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.